Hello, everybody. We're now live. Hello, it's Friday, the 1st of April. This is not April Fools. This is Dan Assor hosting a special broadcast with a guest I have in the studio that I'll introduce in a second. It's the second of a new monthly series of the Dan Assor Show in partnership with trade show audience engagement specialists, Expo Stars. Thanks for everyone that's tuning in live and also watching it on demand and listen to it on demand. It's available on the Expo Stars website, on danassor.com, in audio and in video formats. And every month I'm going to be joined by the MD of Expo Stars, Lee Alley, when we're going to be discussing trade show engagement for exhibitors. I'm delighted to introduce Lee this afternoon. How are you, Lee?
Good afternoon, Dan. Yes, I'm very good, but very cold because you have the snow, you have a blizzard, and we have like freezing temperatures here. So
yeah, I'm sitting in a t-shirt, but I'm in a and actually I've got my central heating on, which I shouldn't do because April the 1st, everyone, if you haven't adjusted your bills, everything's gone up by 50%. So I'll be turning the central heating off. So people that are watching live, please feel free to ask any questions as I go along with the conversation with Lee. And even if you are watching on demand on LinkedIn, you can put a comment into the comment field, and Lee will definitely like to answer that. So, Lee, I'm sure they're few and far between, but before we get stuck into trade show engagement for exhibitors, can you just bring to life yourself and the business Expo Stars, please?
Sure. Thanks very much, Dan. Yes, so I'm the founder and MD of Expo Stars Interactive. We're a trade show engagement performance agency established in 2007. I've had the pleasure of working at international exhibitions for the past 14 years and helping exhibitors with their face-to-face engagement and helping them to optimize the whole attendee experience.
Sure, fantastic. And we've all heard of SEO, or most of us have, or we should have had, search engine optimization. But recently, you have coined the phrase TEO, or is it a mnemonic? I can never remember what they're called. TEO acronym. That's the one.
That's right.
I should have stayed behind in English classes. Trade show engagement optimization, or TEO, of which there are 5 pillars, and we're going to talk about one of them because the second episode, the first week, we did the first pillar. Just in summary, bring that to life for us, please. What does that mean?
Yeah, so I came up with TEO because the concepts of SEO and TEO are very similar. So with SEO, obviously what you're doing is you're optimizing your website. You have a website, and on a trade show front, your booth is your website. So, and then obviously you have the visitors in the world of the internet, and on the trade show floor, obviously you have the attendees. So why not have optimization, just like you spend a lot of money optimizing your search engine optimization, looking for your attendees? Why not do the same on the trade show floor? So we look at concepts, we looked at the 5 pillars that actually make up the trade show engagement optimization, and the things that exhibitors need to do to optimize the whole experience and get a positive return on investment.
Sure.
There,
sorry, can you? Yeah, you can still hear me. Yeah, sorry. So can you bring those 5 pillars to life? Because we spoke about the first one, which was strategy, last month.
Sure.
Just briefly take us through the 5, and then we're going to focus on the second one, your attendee journey.
Yeah.
This afternoon.
So we began in the last session with the strategy. So this week we're going to be talking about the attendee journey. So looking at what are the key steps that you need to take people through on the booth to get them engaged in the conversation. Then obviously we look at your people, your booth staff. How do you actually brief them, train them, set their objectives, and how do you actually select them and have them do the appropriate jobs at the booth? And then obviously the 4th one is KPI measurement, looking at the key metrics that you need to know. And then the last one is your follow-up process, because obviously without the follow-up process, you're not going to make any sales. So your follow-up process needs to be absolutely spot on.
Excellent. And yeah, last month, for those that weren't aware, it is now on demand. If you go to danassor.com or also Expo Stars website, you'll be able to see the session that we did on strategy, where we covered things like why are you exhibiting, how does your exhibiting strategy align with your business growth, what's the right show, and what are your top 3 objectives, as an example. So today we're going to talk about the attendee journey. What do you mean by the attendee journey? Just bring the sort of central theme to life. So you mean the attendee journey once they come onto your booth, or does it start beforehand? What's the thought process?
Yeah, so the attendee journey obviously starts before the show in terms of identifying who your target audience, who do you actually want to bring onto the booth, and then look at what happens during the exhibition, what kind of processes you need to go through from saying hello to actually filling in the lead capture form. And then obviously looking at what happens after the journey in terms of the sales process as well. So it's got to be all joined up together and not just make it, just get people, get them to just come onto the booth and just
Sure.
have a conversation. There's a lot of steps that you actually need to do to actually prepare before the event. And then obviously you need to have a strategy with that journey and what steps you actually take them through on the booth as well.
Sure, because you might have booked your booth, so you're all set. There's a few weeks to go, but obviously at some of these trade shows, that could be, they're not necessarily sort of linear. There's quite a few different sets of audiences, right? And you might just want to meet one set, and even within that set, just these people with a specific job role.
Yeah.
So it's really important, isn't it, to think about who your ideal target audience is within the trade show, even though you've already booked it, so you know generally the people are going to be there, and specifically who you want to talk to. So just bring that to life. How should people go through that process? Sort of identify.
Well, the first step is to actually have a chat with the organizer and get a breakdown of who's actually going to be attending. And you can look at, they can give you statistics like the job by job role, by the industry that they're actually in, by the age group as well. So there's a lot of information that you can actually gather, and you can actually see what percentage of that audience is relative to you. Because if you have 50,000 people attending a show, but only maybe 100 of them are relative to you, then I would question whether it's worthwhile going to the show. But if you have 2,500, 3,000 as a prospective audience, then obviously what you need to do is try and put a campaign together before the show as to why those 2,000 to 3,000 people should be coming to your booth.
Sure, but it's interesting, and I've been here sort of on the sales side. So you book the booth, and then obviously you can try and encourage the company to promote their participation at the event, right?
Yeah.
By using their existing databases. So bring your prospects down, also bring your clients down, because a client might be spending X now, and they could be spending Y next time if you entertain them, and you don't always meet your clients face to face. So actually, it's like a pop-up shop, isn't it?
Yeah.
But you do get some pushback sometimes, don't you, from the client saying, well, I'm not going to be promoting my participation at your event to my prospects, so my competitors who are going to be there can then pick them up. But do you think that's a short-sighted approach? Do you think there is still something in it, and actually it's not just the organizer's job to push people to your booth, it's yourself as well, or your company?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, there's always like a balance to actually be had. So if you have key clients, I would always question why you're exhibiting if you're actually inviting your clients down, unless you've got a new product launching and you want to showcase the product to your existing clients. Then I would actually perhaps look at engaging with existing clients, outside of the trade show. But if you have prospects, and you want to actually invite them to meet your people, to actually have a look at your products and services, and actually get connected with, your team and your brand, and see how you do things, then absolutely, I would encourage exhibitors to go out and invite some of their prospects to the show.
Because we deal with trade show, we deal with exhibitors. They're B2B, so there's no storefront, so people can't go and see your wares typically. And so this is an opportunity for 2, 3, however many days the show is, to actually come and meet you.
Yeah.
And, you talk them through exactly what you do. And you might be, 8/10 down the road of closing a deal with somebody in this 2 days, could then conceal that. So it's just a bit of a mind shift, thinking it's not just about completely new business, is it? Meeting at the show.
Absolutely.
Cementing the relationships with your prospects.
Absolutely. And the way to do that is by adding value to that trip. Okay. So maybe
How'd you do that?
looking at, if you've got a prospect, obviously, as well as a need for your products and services, they may actually have related needs that other suppliers in the hall could actually have. So you can actually partner with 3 or 4 related companies that don't compete with you, and actually make it a group plan to get all of these people, and actually make a program for them to come and find out about the different solutions that are actually on offer that will actually help them improve their business or save money or anything like that. Because with that kind of approach, what you're doing is you're actually adding value and showing that you actually care about them and you want to help them make the most out of the attendance as well. Because it is, if they're spending money on flights and trains and accommodation to go to that event, why not take that approach, holistic approach, and say, well, come to our booth and we'll also help you discover some other things as well.
Yeah, we're going to talk about in a minute what you can do on the booth, but also potentially you can invite your top 5 prospects down, or 10 prospects, depending on the size of your stand, have a little sort of networking drink at the end of day one, or even at certain points you can even have a little presentation or discussion set up with tables and chairs just for some of your prospects. So that's definitely a good point, to make sure you also speak to your prospects ahead of the event to make sure they come down. You speak a lot about sort of understanding customers' pain points and aspirations. What do you mean by that? So how can you do that ahead of the journey and to the booth, but also at the booth itself? What the sort of questions are people asking?
The question is, like, you need to understand obviously how you can actually help your prospect, okay, to do whatever it is that they actually want. But if you don't know why you actually want to do business with them, or you don't know how you can actually help them, then obviously the journey will be a lot more challenging and the conversation will be a lot different. And the common mistake that a lot of exhibitors make is that they actually lead with themselves, okay, because they have a big shiny booth and somebody comes up to the booth and says, oh, tell me, what is it that you do? And you get a 10-minute sales pitch about how wonderful the company is and the widgets that they offer and so on. And then the prospect says, well, thank you very much. It's not something I'm in the market for. So you've just wasted 10 minutes without even understanding what the prospect, what their pain points and aspirations are. So what I always say to exhibitors is to always start off with a conversation with an open question as to what brings them to the show. And then obviously try and build rapport. And then one of the challenges set is not to talk about yourself for the first 5 minutes. Okay, make it all about them, because the conversation that you actually have with them will give you a lot of clues as to whether there will be a qualified, suitable prospect, or whether there'll be just another time waster, or So it's kind of understanding, building that rapport, and asking the right question. You will actually then understand what are their pain points, why they're actually at the show, and whether there could be a suitable prospect or customer for you.
Yeah, which is the same for any type of business development. If you're on a stand, just because you're face to face, I think some people maybe and they need to be prepared for this, because it is an art form, I guess, to a certain extent, until you're skilled. That same as if you're on the phone, understand what keeps someone up at night from a business perspective, and if you've got the solution to help that. It should be the same on the stand. It's not just about scanning and getting as much data as possible, is it?
Yeah, absolutely. And there is, that's I recently went to Confex, and I think you did as well, Dan. And it's amazing how many exhibitors take the short form approach or the easy approach of, as people are approaching, kind of scan your badge. Okay, so you might as well stay in the office and go on LinkedIn and just call people, right? Because there's no difference. Because if you're just scanning a badge and you come away and you say to your bosses, "Oh, we've scanned 500 leads," okay, it's just 500 names that you still don't know anything about.
Yeah, which you can get now. You can get names and you can guess email addresses pretty easily. I think we've got off topic a little bit, but I think it's important because potentially that comes back to the sort of incentives people might have been given on the stand. Because if I'm on the stand and my boss has told me, right, you're going to be judged on the amount of leads or data, however we got to qualify what a lead means. Let's just say names that you get. And actually, if you get to 100, you're going to get a bonus. I'm just going to scan everybody.
Yeah,
so
absolutely.
It needs to come from, the overarching strategy, which we spoke about before, that is it about leads? How do you qualify? What is a lead? And that sort of thing. What do you think are the key touch points of the attendee journey on the booth? Talk about that. So, the reasons why people go on the booth and what you can sort of extract out of it. Each
absolutely, yeah. So there are stages throughout the engagement process that you need to get spot on to completely get the prospect on board with you at the event. So obviously the first stage, as we just talked about, is how do you actually say hello? Okay. And what are the key questions that you need to ask first? The next step is, where do you actually want to take them? Is it to a presentation? Okay. Is it to a product demonstration that you want them to do? Is it you want to maybe ask them for a drink? Okay, sit down, have a coffee. So whatever that next step is, what you've got to do is then look at, once you've qualified them, is like, what do you want them to do next? Okay, is it do you want to educate them? Do you want to tell them about new products? Okay, or do you want to extract more information from them? And then obviously the third element is agreeing the next step. Okay, so you've said hello, you've said hello, you've qualified them, you've engaged them, you've educated them, and then the last step is getting their permission as to what they actually want to happen after the event. Okay, because getting that user permission is very, very important. And I'll give you a really good example of what happened at Convex. I got invited, I got engaged. Somebody said, "Hi, do you want to take part in spinning the wheel? We're offering prizes." So I said, "Yeah, why not? I'm always a sucker for a freebie." So, so I said, "Yeah, I'll be more than happy to take part." He said, "Right, can you spin the wheel?" And I won a diffuser. And and she said, "Oh, do you mind if I scan your badge?" I said, "Yeah, that's absolutely fine. Thank you very much for the diffuser." And I walked off. Okay. And then I got a phone call just last week. And the representative on the phone said, "Oh, you came to our booth. You talked to one of my colleagues. You were interested in X, Y, and Z." And I actually explained to him what actually happened. And then he said, "Oh, I see." Because I was just there to, win the diffuser, and I didn't even actually even have a look around as to what the company actually did.
Yeah, I think that happens a lot. I think sometimes, I went to an event where I had to, put a golf ball into a hole, and then I was given a free prize, but then only realised afterwards that the game itself had nothing to do with the product on the booth. It's just they had hired the game, right? So talking about gamification, because again, exhibitors and also organisers encourage this, right? So we do, as organisers, we speak to our exhibitor and say, you've got this size booth. These are sort of things you can put in it, especially with people that haven't exhibited much, maybe, or just want some recommendations. But it's important that, if we have these things, VR headset or a game, or like you mentioned, spin the wheel, it can go wrong, right? Because you end up completely veering off into another direction. Or even like a simulator, which I've been in, Formula One simulator. When's that right? When's that wrong? How can you make that work? Just give me your thoughts on that.
Well, gamification and booth attractions are all about the curiosity. Okay, so obviously it's a big hall and you've got people walking past, and the attendees love to follow a crowd. So if you're building, you've got gamification on your stand and there's a nice little crowd, taking part. What you're doing is you're arousing curiosity of the other attendees who naturally want to see what's going on. Why is there a crowd? Okay, so you remember the old school days when 2 or 3 people, school kids, were going on and they were saying like fight, 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 and everybody else just came.
I normally ran off. I don't at that
point. Well, it's the same with exhibitions. Okay, you see some noise happening, you see a crowd going, and then obviously people get curious and so I just wonder what's happening over there. So gamification and having things like spin the wheel and things like that, it's all about building that curiosity. Okay, but after you've done the curiosity and you've got people to the stand, that's when you need to really start the conversation and actually link it to your products and services.
Yeah. And you almost need like a sales funnel approach, which you would do normally, right? Yeah. So, they
Absolutely,
come in here, they come in here, we get them interested, then we're taking them over there, and that's what we understand maybe a bit more about their needs and so on and so forth. Obviously, it depends on, how much space you've got and and that sort of thing. But it's no point just having a game or an attraction for the sake of it. There has to be
absolutely a
reason behind it. Mark, as Eddie has just put this up, this is definitely something we spoke about in our first session around strategy. Really understanding, what the company's trying to achieve. And so, the organizer also has a responsibility to sort of advise and assist in the process as well. Thank you for that, Mark. So we got an example here that we spoke about beforehand from an exhibitor that I think you worked with at Pharma Pack in 2017, which is an Informer Markets event. And they had an art gallery concept developed by Terumo Pharmaceutical Solutions, who are at Pharma Pack, the global medical tech company. And I'm just going to put this up. Obviously, we haven't got people, etc. But just talk us through what this client of yours did at the show.
Yeah, so obviously they've been exhibiting a number of years, and their approach was always the simple approach of having a booth stand and having sales reps around collecting business cards and so on. So what we did, we facilitated an experience where they actually closed the booth off, and our staff were placed at the front of the booth to actually qualify people before they actually went in. Now, the theme here obviously is sharp needles, because Terumo manufacture parenterals, which are needles, another word for needles that deliver drugs. And they wanted to inform the attendees about the heritage of Terumo, where they came from. And they did that through creating an art gallery. So they actually hired 5 artists who created artwork, some of them actually using the needles that they actually manufacture. And they actually crafted a story together. So after the people were qualified, the rope was actually opened, and they went on a tour to learn about the history of Terumo and some of their developments. And they kind of linked, so it was linking education and along with the story on, how the needles are developed. And also it was a great conversation piece as well. And this actually got picked up by the show organizer, and there was a lot of visibility around it, and a lot of people actually came back and actually invited other people to come back because it was something out of the ordinary. So it was a great. So they actually clearly understood that obviously they wanted qualified people like prospective clients. Then they brought them in, gave them a tour. Then obviously they had a tablet with a questionnaire that filled in, asked the right questions, and they actually asked permission as to what they actually wanted to happen after the event.
Sure.
So this was a great way of, kind of restricting and actually optimizing the time on the booth, and obviously restricting the amount of people that they actually dealt with as well. And they came away with something like over 100 qualified sales leads that they actually continue the conversations with.
Yeah. So yeah, definitely quality over quantity.
Absolutely.
And it's interesting. So the artwork is essentially the history.
Yeah.
And so that in itself was also building and giving authority, right? And building up respect for and credibility of the business. It's not just artwork, famous artwork.
Yeah,
not really,
absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah. And there was a nice story to it, obviously, showing how the needles are actually manufactured. And the artworks were like really good to look at as well. And they actually had their own story. I think I sent you the link with the story behind each one of the artworks as well. So that was really fascinating for the people because they were learning something new.
Yeah. Excellent. Okay. And so just to finish up, some people, are coming to the stand and might not be relevant, even if they want to have a conversation with you. So how do you think you filter out the people that ultimately are, in the nicest possible way, time wasters, or people that, you don't necessarily want to speak to, but you don't want to get rid of them. You don't want to sort of be rude. What's the best way of sort of ending that conversation that you think's not appropriate, not going to develop for you?
Yeah, I think is the key thing is to be honest, okay, and just say, look, I don't think what we've got to offer is relevant to you. I appreciate you coming onto our booth and learning more about us. And like David Letterman does, stick your hand out and say thank you for coming to our booth and enjoy the rest of the show. But the thing is, people, if you're honest with them, I think one of the hardest things that people find is they try to be too polite. Okay, they think the conversation is actually going somewhere or going to go somewhere, but it doesn't. But if you, within 2 or 3 questions, if you recognize that there isn't really an opportunity to actually have this person as a prospect, then just be polite, be upfront, be honest. Okay. And they will actually understand that you've got a lot of people to talk to, and you don't want to waste each other's times. And obviously, they've got a show to go to as well, where they can discover better solutions for themselves.
Perfect. Well, listen, thank you so much. It was a great insight into how you can maximize the the attendee journey. And I know that you've got lots of shows coming up that you're working at. Give us a flavour of some of the shows that you're. Because I saw a post on LinkedIn with lots of logos of different shows all over the world. Because you work internationally, right? It's not just Tell us about the shows you've got coming up.
Yeah, so this week, yesterday, we started at the Anti-Aging Medicine Congress in Monaco, where we're working with a big German company. Then we've got ICE London coming up, the casino event. Then I forget now. We've got loads coming up. We've got a couple one in New Orleans, the IEEA. Then we've got one in Las Vegas. So yeah, there is a lot, and I don't have the list handy actually. So
no, that's all right. And do you actually see a big difference between the locations, the exhibitors in different locations of how they exhibit? Do you see different styles in different regions?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So in Europe, obviously, we're much more about hospitality. Okay, so you'll see a lot more stands with the bar, with the catering, as well. In Dubai, you will actually see a lot more bling. Okay, so big booths, a lot of shiny whistles and bells going on. And then obviously in the US, this is where you'll actually see a lot more engagement as well, and people being very proactive and very much sales type approach as well. So
interesting.
Yeah.
Okay, so thanks for joining us today, Lee. The next in our monthly series is going to be on Friday, the 6th of May, and we're going to be talking about booth staff. Do you want to just give us a quick sort of preview of the sort of things we'll be talking about on that show, please?
Yeah, about booth staff, it's going and actually, looking at how do you actually choose the right booth staff to work at the event, okay? Because a lot of the time, exhibitors actually struggle in terms of who to select. Sometimes it's actually used as a reward. Sometimes it's you only have those people available, and it's looking at what are the key job roles that they actually need to do at the booth, and actually making sure that they've got the right kind of personality to be able to do those job roles. So, for example, you wouldn't want to put somebody who's really shy at the front of the booth to actually go out and proactively engage people. So what we'll be looking at is, how do you select the right people? How do you get the most out of their personalities? How do you allocate the right job roles? And how to actually motivate and actually get them engaged in the whole exhibiting process. How many times have you seen, Dan, that when you've gone to a show and the booth reps are completely disengaged, they don't even want to be there?
Yeah. Not when I turn up, they're always engaged. On that note, thank you. We will see each other again on Friday the 6th of May. And please head to expostars.com for all information on how they can help you generate better qualified leads from trade shows and events. Thank you, Lee.
Thank you, Dan. Thank you for having me. Have a great weekend.
Thank you. So thank you very much to Lee. Thanks everyone that's watched live for your comments and also watched on demand. I'm Dan Assor. This was the Dan Assor Show with Lee Ali from Expo Stars. Have a great day.